Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Decentralized Chain. If this is the first time you're here and you want to learn more about crypto, whether it's news, insights, or analysis to help you get that edge, start now by hitting the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon. Better still, come and join us over in the Telegram community. Plenty of crypto enthusiasts there as well. Now, you look around, right, and you look at the market today, and all you see is red. There's a few bits of green, but predominantly it's red. Markets are down. Your crypto is down pretty much from the all-time highs by at least 70, even to 80%. But this is also the time where some of the gains are made. And we're talking about those 1000x returns, 2000x returns that you see in the bull markets. See, in the bear market, it's brutal. There is pain. No one's really interested in following what project is doing what. But this is where people fail, because in order to set yourself up for the next bull cycle, you really need to be focusing on what is being worked on during the bear market. There is a saying, and ultimately bear markets are for building, pretty much. Now, how do you know what to follow? How do you know what is being built? More importantly, what about if you have an idea? How do you take that idea and make it a reality? Let's be honest, not everybody is tech savvy. Not everybody understands how to program in all the various blockchain technologies that we have. But people do have ideas, and ideas can be cultivated, can ultimately be built on. And so today we're going to speak to the CEO of Rapid Innovations about how you can take an idea and ultimately get it up and running within 90 days. And so this could be your opportunity if you've had an idea within this space. And we're in the bear market now, so all we can do is build. So stay tuned if you want to find out more, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey Jesse, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. How you doing?
Dude, awesome to be here. Super excited.
So look, today we're going to talk about innovation in this space. You know, how does one actually take that idea and make it something for themselves, right? But before we get into that, how did you get into crypto and even Web3 specifically?
Yeah, so that's a fun story. So I was in the real estate game for a while. I owned a small little real estate company, and one of my clients sat me down for coffee one day and said, "Hey, this would have been 2010. Said, hey Jesse, I'm going to sell all of my real estate holdings, and I'm going to buy this thing called Bitcoin." And I spent the next 3 hours trying to talk him out of it because it seemed like a terrible, terrible idea.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I wasn't very persuasive. He did sell all of his real estate. He bought Bitcoin. And then, like all dumb mistakes that you make early on in life, I eventually went to work for him. And so he tried to convince me from about 2011, when I got really serious about the blockchain space, to 2014. He tried to convince me to sell my company and go and work for him. And I eventually did when I learned about Ethereum, because one of the biggest things for me was that if you have a decentralized money or a decentralized monetary system, a decentralized store of value, like, it does a lot of really, really interesting things, but without a decentralized application layer, what's the point? Yeah. Because you still have this mutable, layer that sits above, trustless money or trustless value, that can be taken down. People can be deceived. There can be counterparty risk. It just didn't make sense. But when I met Vitalik and he went through the, what Ethereum was going to do, what it was going to bring to the table, I fell in love. And so I would say that I burnt the ships. I burnt the ships when Ethereum became a viable option to get out of real estate. And actually, the first application that I developed inside the blockchain sector was a real estate application. There was actually two of them. One to transfer deeds back and forth between parties for crypto, and the other one was to tokenize commercial real estate, of which one of them never took off, and the other one the SEC shut down before it even got up and off the ground running. But that was how I got into the space. I didn't have a developer background. I mean, I had I'd done a little bit of programming. I basically cheated at some video games, and written some scripts for doing that in my younger years. And so, I hopped on YouTube. I learned to be a hack job developer, hired 30 people that actually knew what they were doing. And we went to building decentralized applications. And so that's kind of the basic story about how I got into the space.
And I suppose that's where Rapid Innovations came about then.
Yeah, kind of. Rapid Innovation took a while for me to really understand what I wanted to do. Because at first I worked with my friend Zach, and we built a ton of stuff. And during that first ICO run up, 2016, 2017, we got to work with companies like Bancor and other notable people in the space. For a while, Zach was running Bitcoin.com with Roger Ver, and so kind of just working with the old guard, in the early days. And then eventually Zach decided that he wanted to get out of the blockchain space and into AI and machine learning, and asked me if I wanted to go that direction instead of being in blockchain. I really just didn't. Like, I love machine learning. I love neural networks. I love that technology, and I think it's going to make a massive impact in the world. But I love blockchain. I mean, I live it. I breathe it. It's my hobby. Like, there's nothing I love more than that. And so we separated ways. And for a while, I thought maybe I wanted to be like a consultant and join projects. And I thought maybe I wanted to start my own project. And, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in the world. But at the end of the day, the thing I'm most passionate about is I want to see this technology adopted. Like, I want to see, there's so many use cases and so much inefficiency you can cut out of the world, so much wealth you can give to people that deserve it. And so, how do you help the most people? How do you have the biggest impact on the industry? How do you have the biggest impact on adoption? And that's where Rapid Innovation came from, because I realized there's tons of people in the space that have a little bit of money and a great idea that's actually going to revolutionize the way that people do things and the user experience that people have as they go through life. And I wanted to support those people as they did that. And so Rapid Innovation really was built from the ground up to be a Web3 only software development company where every single person on the team understood Web3. Every person on the team understands blockchain. And then we can help people in whatever way they want to impact the world. And so for me, that's where I felt like I could have the biggest impact in the space, and was really excited to do it. And Rapid Innovation was born.
And, when we sort of talk about, because you mentioned before team growth, and, obviously clearly it's something that you started, just for your passion and your love for this space. And that is kind of almost, a solo person kind of just trying to drive forward through it. But obviously, when you look at, when you start taking on clients, for example, you start working with the next idea and everybody else comes up with the next idea. I suppose then at that point, your team starts growing, right? So
yes.
And so I must be, and I'm wondering, because, because when we have these cycles come up, everyone has an idea. Let's, like, as in a bull cycle, I suspect you most really have the most amount of drive coming in, saying, yep, I've got the next best, play to earn, play to swim, play to sing, whatever it is, right? That's going to be the next best thing. And so even then, I would suspect that, there would be a lot of demand coming in from, the crypto community. And I suppose that demand needs to be fed, right? So how do you grow with that?
I mean, a little bit recklessly, if I'm going to be completely honest. But, what's interesting is that bull runs are full of noise, is what they are. There's a lot of people who want to do a lot of things, but none of them are very serious, and all of them are chasing the dollar. During bear runs, everyone's very serious about what they're building. And you get all of these people that know that when you build in a bear run, you make money. And when you build in a bear run, you actually innovate. And so I started this company in a bear run on purpose, in order to find people that were building solid projects. And we started with, it was myself, my two co-founders, and 3 developers. So there's 5 of us. This would be almost exactly 3 years ago now. 3 years ago, June 11th, I think, maybe, or something like that. And so for that first year, we focused on just building process, right? Making sure that we really understood what it looked like to be a development company in the Web3 space. So I think by the end of that first year, there was 15 of us, maybe, altogether.
Yeah.
So very, very slow growth. At the end of the second year, we were still dealing with with a bit of a bear run.
Yeah.
And once again, it was all about process, right? How do we make sure we build a process that really helps our clients and gives our clients exactly what they need? And so we grew from, that 14, 15 developers up to about 34 developers a year ago.
Yeah.
And then over the last year during this, and this is where the reckless leap comes in. And anyone who knows what they're doing is about to give me a face palm, but we grew from 34 people up to about 300 people in the last year. Now I will say it was calculated reckless behavior because I knew that we had spent a lot of time getting our processes down and a lot of time understanding what our clients actually needed, and how we deliver MVPs quickly. And so when you have a good foundation in place, you can then start plugging people in.
Yeah.
And so the entire goal of that first 2 years was to get to a place where we could experience some massive growth during this bull run, because I saw it coming.
Yeah.
Knew it was going to happen. And so we grew quickly, too quickly, some people would say. And now that we're back in a little bit of a bear run, the idea is we stabilize, we make sure that our processes are cleaned up and that we're ready for the next one, because I'd love to be able to do it again. And
it's around the corner, right? I mean, we say the next one, and I think it's it's a good couple of years away. It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. Oh, it is coming. 100%. I've been through enough of these cycles from 2011 till now to realize that it is coming. It's just a matter of when.
That's right.
And even that is relatively predictable. I mean, I predicted this bear run or the bull run and this bear run. So I think it's not clockwork, but it is pretty easy to guesstimate when these cycles are going to top off and when the new one's going to start.
I mean, blockchain technology, it is, for me, from my point of view, is the heart of the transition to Web3, right? And I think the other thing around that is that all the Web2 users, that we have today, I think if we were to onboard them onto current blockchains, I would suspect that most of those would be at breaking point, right? And
absolutely,
there's plenty of solutions that are proposed around here, right? In terms of scalability, security, all those things. But today, I haven't seen any of those really, truly put to the test. But saying that, the adoption of crypto is also restricting Web3's progress. Just from my sort of outside view in. Although there have been, what I would say, significant advances in making crypto a reality, for use beyond, although it is still quite a speculative market. Now, with that in mind, and saying that, how has the Web3 space evolved in the time that you've been here?
I mean, from the Wild West days, back when people were building, what was it, FOMO 3D?
Yeah.
I mean, some people on the team would. Dude, it's interesting because in the beginning, there seemed to be a soup that was made of these grand ideas.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go and change, we're going to change deep-seated infrastructure on how the world works that's been around for 1,500 years. It's the way the world actually works. Maybe not quite that long, but 200, 300, 400-year-old systems that have been in place since before America existed.
Yeah.
We're, back when it was running in Europe, we want to change real estate and title, and we want to change all these things. And so there was these grandiose ideas of how the world was going to be changed. And a lot of people were working on that. And then the other side of that was people were like, I'm going to create Ponzi schemes and gambling sites and all this other stuff, right? So it was weird in the beginning, is what it was. I mean, just weird. It's leveled out a lot. And what's interesting is when I first started getting calls from Fortune 200 companies, when Goldman Sachs, called and when I got to have conversations with Western Digital, or I got to have conversations with Deloitte or Boeing, or those that caliber of company, I realized these people finally get it. Now we're actually going to start making changes. And so the maturing that's happened, the grandiosity of the ideas has leveled out and come down a notch. But the practicality of what people are actually doing and the real impact that that companies are making in people's everyday lives is actually starting to happen, right?
Yeah.
Which was the whole point all along. So, I mean, that's kind of what I've seen. The other thing that's interesting is that back in 2014, 2015, when I said I own a decentralized application development company, because it was no such thing as Web3, but not really.
Yeah.
Everyone just looked at me with a completely blank stare. But now when I say I own a Web3 development company, people are like, oh, that's the blockchain stuff, right? Which is crazy because no one knew what it was back when I started. Nobody knew what it was. And it was impossible to explain to them because there was no reference point for it, not enough education. And now I would say that almost everyone I talk to, without exception, has heard at least about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
At least. And so just the like mind share of the blockchain space is at a place it's never been. And that's really, really exciting to me because it means that we're on the verge of some real impact.
No, I completely agree. I mean, the Web3 space itself, we're looking at the rise of new social platforms, search engines, marketplaces built and owned by collectives rather than corporations, which, that is a complete game changer. And I think a lot of that does tend to drive that, we take away the central function away from here and break it down so everybody has a piece of the pie. End users, reclaiming their power and control over their own data. What excites you the most for the future for Web3?
I think so for me, it's really what got me into it in the first place, which is the real world is really inefficient because people don't trust each other.
Yeah.
And as you build applications that don't require trust because they're governed by something that is outside of needing trust, the amount of wealth that gets distributed to the counterparties of those interactions is crazy, right? Because right now, I mean, think about how much money gets paid to real estate agents.
Oh yeah.
In the world today. I mean, it's got to be trillions and trillions of dollars.
For sure.
They're facilitating a transaction between counterparties because those counterparties don't trust each other.
Yeah.
Pretty simple to do that with a smart contract. And if you start expounding on that, there's a lot of wealth being wasted on mitigating counterparty risk. And so I would say that's probably the most exciting thing for me. The second most exciting thing is what you just stated, which is that when you restructure how corporations work, when you change that fundamentally changes the entire world. And the day that you can actually tangibly digitally hold, and control what happens around you, whether that be the Amazon that you use or the search engine that you use or the banking application that you use. Like when you are actually a real shareholder with actual influence and over all of these things in your life, like it increases the user experience because no longer are people competing for a monopoly that they can build that then traps users, but people are actually competing with each other to provide the best user experience for users. And whoever does that the best and then gives it to the people who are its users to govern and control, which ultimately just makes it better, it just upgrades the user experience of humanity, which to me, I'm very passionate about that.
And I think similar to what you've just said there, actually, user experience is something that I hold really close to my heart in this space, because I'll be honest that when it comes to crypto in general, the user experience isn't there. It's not. It's not. There are some great pockets of ideas, and historically, a lot of what's being designed, a lot of dApps that are out there to facilitate whatever type of scheme is being thought up next. A lot of it, in all honesty, the innovation is there for sure, but it's too technical in nature, and because it's so technical in nature, again, it goes to the way that I see it is actually it benefits those who are tech savvy because they kind of know they're on the edge. They know the best way to quickly pull the yield from this farm to the next farm and then move on to the next farm. While, Joe Bloggs has just heard about it and he's jumping in, but he's already too late because the farm's dried up. And I think when we start seeing, and I reckon by the time we hit the next cycle, I think this is something that will become prevalent even more, which is a focus on user experience, a focus on how the everyday consumer or user of blockchain can actually make sense of what's going on, rather than having to understand how to install a Web3 wallet and how to interact with an exchange prior to a farm going live, for example. I say farms because that's kind of what I was looking at before, but it's the user experience is an important piece.
Dude, or even how to tell the difference between USDC on Polygon versus Avalanche versus Ethereum versus whatever. Dude, there's a YouTube video that I love to watch every once in a while to remind myself about user experience, of this guy in like 1984 showing a news reporter how amazing email is going to be.
Yeah.
And so he grabs his phone line and he plugs it into this giant box that's 10 times the size of a computer today. And he's like, so you turn these dials and then you switch this stuff. And it's just convoluted and confusing as all get out. And he then writes an email and he sends it. And it's like, see how easy that was? And to me, that's the perfect meme of the blockchain space, because that's what everybody like me says, right? Like, look how easy it is to do this stuff. But really, if you're looking from the outside in, it's not easy. Like the stuff that we do every day in order to take advantage of things like yield farming or, any of the other myriad of amazing applications that exist, like it requires a level of technical expertise that is beyond most people currently.
No, exactly.
But like you said, 100% for sure that is going to go away. It has to, or it'll die. And so it will. Just like email switched from whatever that crazy thing was in 1984 to what we have today. Like it will change. And when it does, I'm so excited for that day.
One of the things I can say here, Jesse, actually, and relating to what you said about emails, and I might be showing my age a bit here now, but back in 1998, that's when I first got my first mobile phone. It was like a Nokia 8120. It was like the little one. It was the thing back then. And if you compare what we were doing back then with SMS, just sending messages back and forth, and when we had like the likes of I'll say the iPhone because that's what most people will be able to relate to. When we first had the iPhone come out, and then we had WhatsApp come out, WhatsApp killed SMS. It's as simple as that. WhatsApp took the user experience of just a peer-to-peer message, and you've got group chats, you've got images, you've got self-deleting messages, like emojis. Who even uses SMS anymore? The only time I use SMS is to verify a login code or something for two-factor authentication. That's about it.
No, did I talk to my grandma on SMS? Like, I got some people that I need to still message.
But you got to migrate over to WhatsApp. You can share all the pictures and everything.
I know I should, but she's still using Facebook for that. Even though Facebook's dying. Yeah. No, it's exactly like that though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly like that. And I think that, dude, remember, you're old enough to remember like T9 texting, right?
Yeah.
You remember before T9 texting when it was like you had to actually like, it would never auto-complete a word for you. Like you actually had to like push the button as many times as the letter said.
In order to get it through.
Yes.
That's right.
Some people were so fast at doing that. I never got fast at it, but I had friends that could like, they could write like 10 words a minute.
I used to have friends back then who'd just be able to they'd have the phone, they'd be driving, and they would know exactly how many taps, button, space, back down to 0, move along, message on, and it's just like, it's insane. It's insane.
Yep. And those are the people that make money in crypto right now.
Yeah,
are the people that can do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else doesn't even know what SMS is.
Yeah.
And that's changing. WhatsApp is coming in the crypto space, to use the analogy.
Exactly. So, I think, say somebody, if we look at somebody else who's sort of hearing this conversation and thinking, what are these two bearded guys talking about? From your perspective, what resources would you say have had an impact on you personally, professionally, that you would recommend to somebody else who wants to kind of understand a bit more?
So I am a connoisseur of kind of everything. I would say to just start off. So like I spend at least an hour, maybe 2 hours every day just researching. And so there's like new stuff that I've recently just got that's super interesting to me. So I guess I'll share one of those. Like I just subscribed to a newsletter called Milk Road, which is a sweet crypto newsletter. And those guys are super relevant. They stay on top of things, amazing information. And so I try to find a lot of little resources like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm an avid reader. Now I will say I've read, there aren't a lot of really good books on crypto yet.
I agree.
Not that, and I hope that maybe one day I'll write one. Maybe one day you'll write one, right? Like the influencers today are going to do that. So I kind of like, for me, the big things that kind of govern my life in the sphere that I'm in, which is entrepreneurship, business, and then at the crossroads between those two things and blockchain are things like, like Principles. Like that is one of the best books ever written on how to run a business and how to start a business and how to think about your life just in general, by Ray Dalio. Like one of the best books ever. The E-Myth, which is like a crazy classic. Everyone who's ever tried to start a business seems to have read that book. Like those are like, those are yearly or bi-yearly reads for me. And I just try to stay well read more than anything else. Like right now, I just finished Atomic Habits and The Aladdin Factor, and I don't know if I go 3 books back, I'm not going to remember it, I guess. Oh no, it was Principles before that. And then The 4 Disciplines of Execution, and like I love to learn about how to do stuff. And so, yeah, I would say that I think that answers your question.
It does. No. And it's nice that you say that, because one of the things that I also do, because this space is moving at 100 miles per hour, right? Yes. You take 2-3 weeks off out of this space and, you've missed something. You've missed something in between. And from my perspective, I do find that when I look at newsletters, general, there are lots of newsletters within crypto, which kind of ultimately make everything concise, bullet points some of the best topics of the day. And just spending, because I spend roughly about, say, half an hour, 40 minutes max out of my day, just staying on top of crypto, just trying to understand what the next best thing is. What news has happened? What's actually shifting this ecosystem? What's shifting the financial landscape of crypto? And just by having some of those in your inbox daily, just spending a bit of time, I've always found it at least helps me stay on top, or at least on my channel know what I'm talking about, or sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I do know what I'm talking about.
Right? Yes. No, because I have to pretend like I know what I'm talking about as well when I talk to clients. So you and I are in the same space. So which is good. Yeah.
No, exactly. Now, so look, Jesse, before we wrap up, I think one thing is key here, and I kind of want whoever comes across this conversation of ours to understand is that you don't have to be the most technical person in crypto. In all honesty, you don't have to know it all. But saying that, it can be daunting if you come with an idea. How do you make it a reality? How do you take that idea, drive innovation through it, and actually get it out there? And there are resources out there to do that. Likewise, Rapid Innovation is a resource that you can do that with. So if someone has that next $1 million idea, how do they get in touch with you, Jesse?
They go to Rapid Innovation.How, and from there it's pretty easy. And so, yeah, super simple. Try to make it as simple as I can.
Perfect. Well, look, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking. To be honest, it was just a great conversation, to be honest, more than anything else. It's always good to reminisce and talk about current times and challenges that we see. And I hope whoever comes across this video takes that away as well, if anything, that, this space is an innovative space, but you don't need to get left behind. There's plenty out there for you to consume and plenty of resources to help you along the way. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on, and let's stay in touch and catch up soon.
Will do. Hope to do it again soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks,
Speak to you later.